as I speak, are investigating those questions. Tonight, I want to speak to what we do know. A former president was shot, an American citizen killed, while simply exercising his freedom to support the candidate of his choosing. We cannot, we must not go down this road in America. We've traveled before throughout our history. Violence has never been the answer. Whether it's with members of Congress of both parties being targeted and shot, or a violent mob attacking the Capitol on January 6th, or a brutal attack on the spouse of former Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, or information and intimidation on election officials, or the kidnapping plot against the sitting governor, or an attempted assassination on Donald Trump. There is no place in America for this kind of violence, or for any violence ever. Period. No exceptions. We can't allow this violence to be normalized. You know, the political record in this country has gotten very heated. It's time to cool it down. We all have a responsibility to do that. Yes, we have deeply felt strong disagreements. The stakes in this election are enormously high. I've said it many times that the choice in this election we make in this election is going to shape the future of America and the world for decades to come. I believe that with all my soul. I know that millions of my fellow Americans believe it as well. And some have a different view.
That is President Biden speaking at the top of the hour in his address from the Oval Office. Welcome back to a special edition of Scripps News as we continue to follow the reaction to the assassination attempt of former President Donald Trump yesterday at his rally in Pennsylvania. President Biden, during this roughly 5 to 10 minute speech from the Oval Office, talking about the need for Americans to come together. While there is a lot at stake in this election, that the rhetoric, as you heard there, needs to be toned down when it comes to politics in America.
Yeah, those moments we saw on your screen just seconds ago when the shots rang out.
Difficult to watch, even
it really is. I mean, it just brings you right back to the moments when it happened, those screams of the people who were clueless as to what was going on, really shaking the country tonight on the eve, now we are, of the RNC, yes. A huge week in politics. We want to bring in our political correspondent, Stephanie Liebergen. She is at the White House. Stephanie, will you talk about some of the key points that President Biden brought up and really what he wanted Americans to hear from him tonight?
Hey, Alexa and Chris. Well, it was the third time we've heard from the president in about 24 hours, but we've had a similar message in all three of President Biden's statements, and that's calling for the political violence to really turn down the rhetoric of political talk in the country and saying that violence is never the option and violence is never the way to go. That's been consistent among all of the statements we've heard from the president. But in his remarks, he also talked about his own campaign kind of getting back to it. He kind of put this campaign aside the last 24 hours or so, pulling some ads down, canceling or postponing a trip that was planned to Austin, Texas for tomorrow. Now that's getting delayed for former President Biden. A trip of Vice President Harris to Florida to talk about reproductive rights. That trip also postponed in light of the shooting. So the Biden campaign kind of taking a step back, trying to press pause a little bit. But in the president's remarks tonight, it almost seemed like he was trying to open the door back up for campaigns for the 2024 election cycle to kind of resume and get back to what the president seemed to ask for, was get back to a new normal, get back to a kinder, softer normal where the rhetoric is dialed down, where there aren't these violent outbreaks related to politics. He mentioned a number of recent violent political events, of course, the January 6th insurrection, the attempted kidnapping of the Michigan governor, Gretchen Whitmer, the shooting or the attack on Speaker Nancy Pelosi's husband in San Francisco. But political violence goes back even farther than that. Another event that came to my mind as I was listening to the president was the shooting of Gabby Giffords. That was back in 2011. That was a long time ago that this country has been struggling with political passions turning into violence, and that's something that the president is really calling on the whole country, on everyone on both sides of the aisle, to really tone everything down and try to find a new path forward.
Yeah, because as much as the president says that there's no place for political violence in America, as you heard even in his speech, he can give multiple examples of when we have seen political violence in this country. Stephanie, the president will be back on the campaign trail this week. What do we know about where he's going to go?
So we just got the president's schedule for tomorrow. We know the president and the vice president are going to be back in the Situation Room tomorrow morning, scheduled for 11 o'clock. They're going to be getting a briefing from Homeland Security on the shooting at the rally over the weekend and the investigation. After that, we know the president is going to go ahead and have that interview with NBC's Lester Holt. That was supposed to happen in Austin, Texas. Now that is happening here at the White House. But after that interview, the president is going back to the campaign schedule that was previously announced. After that interview with NBC, the president's going to be heading out to Nevada, where he's got a couple speaking engagements out there, some campaign events planned, and that will kind of kick off the president's week, kind of delaying the campaign stuff really about a day or so, pushing everything back a little bit. We'll hear from White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre tomorrow afternoon here at the White House. So there will be more information, hopefully trickling out from the Biden administration as we get farther and farther away from the shooting, and hopefully law enforcement investigators get more information about what led to it.
Yeah, the FBI, the Secret Service, a lot of questions for a lot of people. Stephanie Liebergen for us outside of the White House. Stephanie, thank you. Now, while there is a lot of information that we really don't know at this point, which is so important to admit, we have learned some new information about the shooter, Thomas Matthew Crooks. We know that he appeared in a commercial in 2022 for the investment firm BlackRock.
No audio on this video here. You can see him there. BlackRock releasing the following statement tonight, acknowledging Crooks' appearance in the ad, saying, quote, "As our leadership team communicated to colleagues last night, BlackRock strongly condemns political violence of any kind and will do our part to promote civility and unity in the country." In 2022, we ran an ad featuring a teacher from Bethel Park High School in which several unpaid students briefly appeared in the background, including Thomas Matthew Crooks. We will make all video footage available to the appropriate authorities, and we have removed the video from circulation out of respect for the victims. And again, 3 victims in the shooting in addition to the former president. Of course, we want to talk about the man who was killed. His name, Corey Comparatori. Volunteer firefighter, rather, father of daughters. Just horrible, you know, to hear in a somber message from Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro to remember this man as a hero.
Yeah, he was speaking earlier today. He was apparently at the rally with his family and died a hero, in the words of the Pennsylvania governor, because he died shielding his family from the gunfire that was shot at this rally. Former President Trump, he is in Milwaukee as we speak. Of course, the bullet grazing his ear, but taking the life of that man, Corey Comparatori. So our thoughts with his family tonight as you take a live look at Fiserv Forum, once again, the site of the Republican National Convention. We will have complete coverage of the RNC, which begins tomorrow in Milwaukee. You can join us tomorrow morning for Morning Rush. We have crews in Milwaukee to cover the event all week.
Thanks for being with us on this special edition, Scripps News special coverage, the assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump. Have a good night.